Good morning. It is 9:07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? It's Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. KGB is producing today. Mason's a little under the weather.
Yeah, I got his back.
He told me that he was sorry, and I said, stomach bug be damned. You should have been here.
Yeah, I mean, just unprofessional is what
Weak.
it is.
That's what I said. I said, you're soft.
Don't you want a guy with a stomach bug to stay where he is and not in your presence,
No, you
honestly?
gotta get to work. I said, lazy bones. What are we doing here? No, we hope Mason feels better. Joan Jones is in the newsroom, and we got a lot to get to today. Pam Bondi has just been sworn in. Her confirmation hearing is just kicking off, so we'll be following up the morning with some audio on that. We're also going to dive into the Pete Hegseth confirmation hearing. We tried to cover some of that yesterday, but it is hard to do a show and then pull audio and react to it in real time, so I do have some more thoughts on Hegseth. Absolute slam dunk yesterday in his confirmation hearing, winning over just about everybody. But first, Joe Biden, him and Harris, well, they're working on their legacy. That's what they're focused on right now. And yesterday, Joe signed a national monument into law, something like that. And I wish I had more information for you, but Joe didn't even know what he was signing.
Establishment of the Highlands National Monument. Here we go. Got to fill this in. I know, Santino. I'm trying. Why the day of? In this hand, you'll fill in the dates here, guys.
Yeah, we'll fill in the dates for you, Joe. We'll do the rest of the work. Poor Uncle Joe. I feel bad for the guy at a certain level. It's like, ever see the meme where it's like, there are two wolves inside of you? And it's like, well, the two wolves inside of me, like, one of them wants to see Joe Biden in jail for the rest of his life, and then the other one wants me to see him in, like, a nice nursing home or, like, somewhere on the beach, just enjoying his old age. Because those are the two wolves inside of me. I'm honestly, I look at this guy, and it just screams elder abuse. He's going to have a big speech tonight talking about all of his accomplishments. And I don't know where to begin. Record inflation, record illegal immigration. We got, weakness on the world stage. We've had absolute disasters in Hawaii and East Palestine. I mean, we can go on and on and on. What's your favorite Joe Biden accomplishment? 615-737-9986. There's so many. But right now, he's working on his legacy. One of the things he did yesterday was he's going to be removing Cuba from the State Department's list of state sponsors of terrorism. That's right, Cuba's off the list, leaving only Iran, Syria, and North Korea. Biden claimed in his declaration that Cuba had not sponsored terrorism for 6 months. That's it. That's all you got to do. 6 months. You hear that? Iran and Syria and North Korea. Just if you're clean for 6 months, you're off the list. That's Joe Biden for you. Cuba's been on the list for most of the years between 82 and 2025, with the exception of 6 years between 15 and 21 after Barack Obama took them off the list as part of a larger package of concessions to Havana. Commies doing commie stuff, you know. David Weiss released his report on Hunter Biden yesterday, talking about Biden legacy, and he said it's inappropriate to discuss more Hunter Biden charges. That's weird. That's interesting. Now, the CEO of Marco Polo, which is a 501c3 that dove in to the Hunter Biden laptop, probably the premier authority on the Hunter Biden laptop, their CEO, Garrett Ziegler, is going to join the show at 10:35. And we're going to talk about what charges could have been levied. I don't know a better expert on the Hunter Biden laptop than the guys over at Marco Polo, but this is insane. It's insane. I understand he got a blanket pardon, but you can't find state level crimes to charge this guy. They say that Weiss appeared to acknowledge Hunter Biden made millions for limited work while his father was an elected official whose primary focus was foreign policy. They say Mr. Biden made this money by using his last name and connections to secure lucrative business opportunities, such as a board seat at Ukraine industrial conglomerate Burisma Holdings Limited and a joint venture with individuals associated with a Chinese energy conglomerate. He negotiated and executed contracts and agreements that paid him millions of dollars for limited work. This is it's just crazy to me. He made so much money, and you wonder what was the payoff for them. But, we're finding out that Weiss says it'd be inappropriate. Inappropriate.
A Fox News alert. The Department of Justice has released special counsel David Weiss's scathing report on Hunter Biden.
In it, Weiss defends his probe that found that the president's son made millions of dollars off his last name and political connections, then failed to pay his fair share of taxes.
Peter Ducey joins us live from the White House with the latest. Hey, Peter.
And a look at recent history, we remember that the heart of President Biden's pardon of his son was that he accused the special counsel, David Weiss, of singling Hunter Biden out. Now David Weiss is saying that the president was wrong to say that. A quote from last night's report, other presidents have pardoned family members, but in doing so, none have taken the occasion as an opportunity to malign the public servants at the Department of Justice based solely on false accusations. The biggest problem the special counsel Weiss has with Hunter is that he didn't pay $1.4 million in taxes over a 5-year stretch. Weiss says those are not inconsequential tax violations and that Mr. Biden made his money by using his last name and connections to secure lucrative business opportunities such as a board seat at a Ukrainian industrial conglomerate, Burisma Holdings Limited, and a joint venture with individuals associated with a Chinese energy conglomerate. He negotiated and executed contracts and agreements that paid him millions of dollars for limited work.
It's a Biden special. Millions for limited work.
The Hunter legal team is pushing back. Late last night, they told us Mr. Weiss conveniently omits his proposal to resolve this investigation in 2023 with a pair of misdemeanors and a diverted gun charge recommended by career prosecutors. Mr. Weiss also fails to explain why he reneged on his own agreement, a reversal that came at the 11th hour in court as he and his office faced blistering attacks from Republicans and his then filing unprecedented charges for someone with no aggravated gun factors who had paid his taxes in full years before the charges were filed. President Biden came here to the White House almost 4 years to the day, promising to restore faith in institutions. Now this special counsel is saying that President Biden's actions have undermined faith in institutions.
Yeah, I feel like that's an understatement. Yet, at the same time, the report confirms that he made all that money, but they are also saying it would be inappropriate to go after him for more charges. So we'll talk with the CEO of Marco Polo. In the meantime, the SEC is now suing Elon Musk. I'm sure that this is just a coincidence that they're going after Elon Musk currently. The SEC is suing him over Twitter purchase disclosures. The lawsuit marks the latest salvo in years-old feud between the SEC and Musk, who has become one of the regulator's highest-profile critics. So they're saying that for 11 days, Musk allegedly failed to properly disclose that he had acquired a major stake in Twitter. The SEC said in a court filing in Washington. As a result, the agency said Musk benefited from artificially low prices as he snatched up shares in the company, which he eventually purchased for $44 billion, and then you know the rest. In total, they say Musk underpaid Twitter investors by more than $150 million for his purchases of Twitter common stock during this period. The SEC said in its complaint, investors who sold Twitter common stock during this period did so at artificially low prices and then thus suffered substantial economic harm. I just do feel like this is all political. I feel like this is because Elon helped Donald Trump win. I could be wrong, but you have to understand how these people operate in these high offices. They're radicals. James O'Keefe has a new story out today, too, where he has a former Hillary Clinton staffer turned FBI spy hunter who says he's now a DOD senior advisor, and he claims to be plotting with retired generals to protect America from Trump. Now, this is all done under a secret date, and anything that comes out of the O'Keefe stuff, I do take with a grain of salt because everybody, you talk a good game when you're on a date, right? But James O'Keefe at it again. New investigation from O'Keefe Media Group reveals spy hunter Jamie Menina denigrating President-elect Donald Trump, as well as incoming Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Over the course of several fake dates with an undercover journalist, he reveals the nature of his work at the Pentagon and his background in government, going back to his work for Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. He believes Trump will attempt to remain in office past the end of his term in the White House. He said, in this investigation, I predict Trump will probably entertain publicly the idea of staying in office, changing the laws to stay in office, which he's not allowed to do by the Constitution. But he'll probably suggest, and there'll probably be an effort to try. Menina believes this is in service to Trump's desire not to go to jail. This is what it sounded like on the undercover date.
And I work at this top consulting firm, and my client is the Pentagon. So I'm embedded in the Pentagon. I work in the Joint Staff, which is the top military command. When she lost, I went into the intelligence community and I became an FBI special agent. So I became a spy hunter. So I was a counterintelligence agent, special agent at the FBI.
What's your overall assessment of Trump?
He's a sociopathic narcissist who is only interested in advancing his name, his wealth, and his fame.
Is there anything you can do to protect American people from the stuff that he might try to do?
I'm in conversation with a couple of retired generals to try to explore what we can do.
They're exploring what they can do. Now, again, take it with a grain of salt. This guy could just be talking up a big game on a date, and trying to be Billy Badass. You never know. But Menina was a consultant senior advisor with the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Department of Defense. He was a former special agent with the FBI and a former special assistant to Hillary Clinton. And they say that his career path changed when Hillary lost. Now, again, this is indicative of all these people that work in government. It's going to be an uphill battle. We got 5 days till the inauguration, but we're going to have 4 years of routing these people out of government. This guy may have some power. He may not have any power at all. But there are a lot of people that share these exact same views in government. That we had a story yesterday that there was a report, 42% of government federal employees that make under $75,000 a year want to Trump-proof the government. They want to resist Trump's agenda, even though it was a massive mandate from the American public. Now, maybe giving a little bit more credence to James O'Keefe's story. Maybe it's just policy. But top Pentagon advisor in that story, Jamie Menina, who was caught on the hidden camera to revealing plans to protect people from Trump, has been fired from his position.
This just in, Jamie Menina, the top advisor to the Joint Chief of Staff at the Pentagon, has been terminated. This from Joseph R. Holstead, Joint Staff Public Affairs at the Pentagon. Quote, the alleged comments by Menina do not reflect the positions of the chairman or the Joint Staff. Furthermore, the chairman looks forward to working as President-elect Donald J. Trump, principal military advisor in the next administration. We caught up on the phone with Joseph R. Holstead. Here's more of what he had to say.
He is currently at Booz Allen. He is not at the Joint Staff.
Now, Holstead went on to confirm that Menina indeed was an advisor to the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, was meaning a day or two ago.
Did he ever work in the Joint Staff?
Yes, he did.
When questioned if Menina had been terminated due to OMG's undercover investigation, Holstead responded, yeah, that's a standard practice with contractors, referring to Menina contracting with Booz Allen Hamilton.
And because of this investigation, was he terminated, I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's the standard practice with contractors. This is obviously someone speaking out of turn and falsely in public. Obviously you don't, first of all, lie, and then also, weave in further falsehoods, and so.
This termination comes just on the heels of our video report you saw today of Menina talking that he was working with retired generals about efforts regarding Trump after Trump's inauguration this coming weekend. As always, if you're a source inside the government, we look to hear from you.
So that's the latest from James O'Keefe. Again, I take it with a grain of salt, but I do think this is indicative of a lot of people that work in the federal government right now, and this is what we're up against as we head towards the inauguration 5 days from today. We got a lot more on the way. Reaction from Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing. The win that the Democrats are celebrating, is it really a win? Looking at you, Tim Kaine. I mean, that's like the only thing that they can hang their hat on, and it's a huge joke. Pam Bondi is currently sitting down for her confirmation hearing. We'll bring you relevant audio from that and more on the way. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Coming up, Governor Bill Lee threatened it. Well, now he's done it. The measure he's just taken to get past his school voucher program. Also, the House Speaker just overrode an order from President Biden. We'll tell you what he's doing. We've got those stories coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. It's 9:27 on Super Talk. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. I'm Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. Pete Hegseth yesterday, completely unqualified for the gig, clearly. Degrees from Princeton and Harvard, 2 Bronze Stars, major in the Army National Guard, tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. And he was just saying the most outlandish things that you've ever heard in a confirmation hearing. And you know what? I don't know how this guy gets through.
I agree that wokeness is weakness. Mr. Hegseth, do you support racial quotas in recruitment or promotions in the United States military?
Senator, I do not support any form of racial quota.
Do you support affirmative action in our nation's military academies?
Senator, I only support hiring and promoting and admitting the best and brightest, whatever their background is.
What a monster. What? We can't keep letting him get away with this.
I'm clutching my pearls right now as we speak.
Oh, my gosh. Do you hear this? Listen, it got crazier. It got crazier. He had an exchange with Tuberville and Hegseth. I mean, I don't know, the audacity to say this. He said politics have nothing to do with the battlefield.
It has been the joy of my life to lead men and women in military outfits. When you're in combat or in training, there's a lot of conversations that happen. And you start to realize that a lot of people you're serving with share your political ideals or they don't. You find out there's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's Libertarians, there's Independents, there's Vegetarians, everything in between. None of that matters. It never mattered in how I led men and women, how I interacted with them, what missions we undertook. Politics has nothing to do with the battlefield.
Wow. This right-wing extremist. We can't let this guy in, right? He can't be confirmed, can he? Actually, it looks like he's going to be confirmed. He won over just about all the holdovers, including one Joni Ernst. I got the audio on the way from that, but the Democrats, they were not impressed with these answers from Pete Hegseth. And in fact, Kirsten Gillibrand, who had quite the outburst on the floor. She was asked during a break about some of Pete's answers during this confirmation hearing, and she nails it.
Hearing is underway. We've only heard about half the senators ask their questions. The answers so far are deeply disturbing.
Deeply disturbing answers. Deeply disturbing. Politics have nothing to do with the battlefield. You only want to hire based on merit? You're an absolute monster. We got more from the Pete Hegseth hearing on the way. Plus, we'll bring you some audio from Pam Bondi's hearing, who is underway, and Marco Rubio's confirmation hearing, also underway, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning now, 9:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Well, he did it. Governor Bill Lee just now announcing a special legislative session to advance his signature school voucher bill. That session will convene on January 27th. It allows lawmakers to focus solely on the specific topics designated by the governor. Now, House and Senate leadership appear to be on board with Lee, releasing a joint statement alongside Lee's special session call. The path to confirmation a little more clear now for Pete Hegseth, who sat for his first confirmation hearing in D.C. yesterday.
A boost for the man President-elect Trump has chosen to lead the Pentagon and its nearly $900 billion annual budget.
I will be supporting President Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Senator Joni Ernst, a combat veteran, now saying she will vote to confirm Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary. The former Fox News host and veteran defended his qualifications for the job during a contentious hearing yesterday. Hegseth casting himself as the victim of false and anonymous smears.
ABC's Nicole D'Antonio reporting Pam Bondi's first confirmation hearing underway right now. President Biden bids farewell tonight.
The president's expected to outline what he sees as his accomplishments over the past 4 years, what the White House is calling historic progress on job creation, investment in infrastructure and clean energy, and efforts to bring down costs. He'll talk about his foreign policy record, which he'll say includes strengthening alliances around the world, supporting countries like Ukraine and Israel, and bringing home wrongfully detained Americans. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
House Speaker Mike Johnson has ordered that Capitol flags fly at full staff during Donald Trump's inauguration. Johnson overriding a White House proclamation that flags on all public grounds fly at half staff for a month in honor of former President Jimmy Carter, who died last month. That's the latest news. We've got weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. It's 9:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joe Biden is going to give his big speech tonight. He's going off into the sunset. You know, he's got his retirement all squared away. You understand that. Do you need to get your retirement up to that level? I mean, that's going to be tough, but it's going to be easier with my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. You probably know Paul from over 20 years as the host of the Investor Coaching Show that we run right here on WTN every Saturday. And that's where I first met Paul, listening to his show and learning from him on the radio. And when I got to meet Paul, he's the same guy you hear on the air. Smart, honest, legit. When we finally got to break some bread and I got to have my questions answered, I fell in love with their system and I fell in love with the plan. Paul's team doesn't work on commission. Paul's team focuses on education, and that's been the biggest part about working with Paul Winkler Inc. Before I linked up with these guys, financially illiterate, right now, I actually have a clear picture of what we're going to do for our financial future, our retirement, and our investments, setting up not just my wife and I's retirement, but our kids' future as well. You can do the exact same thing. All you have to do is set up a 15-minute phone call with Paul and his team. They'll educate you so that way you don't have that uneasy feeling of blind trust. Set up your phone call today, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Now, it is true and has been acknowledged that I don't have a similar biography to defense secretaries of the last 30 years. But as President Trump also told me, we've repeatedly placed people atop the Pentagon with supposedly the right credentials, whether they are retired generals, academics, or defense contractor executives. And where has it gotten us? He believes, and I humbly agree, that it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm. A change agent, someone with no vested interest in certain companies or specific programs or approved narratives. My only special interest is the warfighter. Deterring wars, and if called upon, winning wars by ensuring our warriors never enter a fair fight. We let them win, and we bring them home. Like many of my generation, I've been there. I've led troops in combat. I've been on patrol for days. I've pulled a trigger downrange, heard bullets whiz by, flex-cuffed insurgents, called in close air support, led medevacs, dodged IEDs, pulled out dead bodies, and knelt before a battlefield cross. This is not academic for me. This is my life. I led then, and I will lead now.
That's Pete Hegseth yesterday at his confirmation hearing, just slam dunking on these fools. Unbelievable. Just projecting absolute strength and competence, which is what we can only hope for from our military and their leadership. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. 9:38. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. I was overwhelmingly impressed by Pete Hegseth yesterday. Again, we were kind of covering the audio in real time here on the show, and it wasn't until after I got home and kind of debriefed from the show and really sat down and watched it again that I realized just how much of a dominating performance that was. It was unreal. And the Democrats, they just looked silly the entire time. The entire time. Elizabeth Warren at one point got laughed at by an entire room full of veterans because she asked Pete Hegseth, hey, when you leave this job, are you going to not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
You have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk with you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because it's not one. You can think about it right now. It's not one. My motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that.
been
I just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years, but you're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals.
There's the pivot.
Saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander.
I would want to see what the policy of the president
I'll
is.
bet you would.
I mean, is she a serious person? I'll bet you would. It's like, yeah, your entire premise of your question was just demolished. An entire room of people laughed at you because your premise was demolished. And then you tried to pivot and make it seem, still relevant to the conversation at hand. Also, didn't Lloyd Austin work at Raytheon? You fact check that for me. How long did Lloyd Austin work at Raytheon before he got his gig? I'm just curious. Just curious. Did they need to do a waiver to get Lloyd Austin in because of his gig at Raytheon? Weird. Now, the Democrats really tried to throw stones at Pete Hegseth. He deflected all of them. And they had one win on liberal Twitter or Sky Blue if you were paying attention. The one win that they hung their hat on was the exchange between Hegseth and Tim Kaine, where Tim Kaine is really going after him for cheating on his wife. And listen, that's not something that we celebrate. That's not something that we're condoning. But the fact of the matter is, Tim, where was this energy when you were Hillary Clinton's running mate?
I'm looking forward to this opportunity to talk. I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's
Tim Kaine. So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime? Yeah.
your definition of cleared. You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared?
I mean, keep the same energy with first Doug, who was impregnating the nanny. You know, let's keep the same energy. Can we keep the energy consistent? Can we? Like, again, not condoning cheating on his wife, but what does that have to do with the job at hand? What does that have to do with the job at hand? This is what the Democrats are hanging their hat on liberal Twitter and Blue Sky and all the liberal spaces, Reddit. Oh, Tim Kaine got him. Did he, though? Did he? He looks foolish. He looked foolish the entire time. You got Senator Mazie Hirono grilling Pete Hegseth over alcohol and drinking alcohol while she herself just sounds absolutely hammered at the exact same time.
As Secretary, you will be in charge of maintaining good order and discipline by enforcing the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. In addition to the sexual assault allegations, and by the way, the answer to my second question should have been yes. I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work, including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Yes. Yes, we understand.
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know that
run directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to the dozens of men and women at Fox News Channel who I work with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer
record.
to my question.
That's because she's not listening. See, she's leaning on unnamed sources. Pete is leaning on people that would put their name by their statements. Isn't that weird? It's a little strange. They're trying to paint him as an alcoholic, serial adulterer, and somebody that's not qualified for the job. And this is what they're going to play on repeat in those liberal echo chambers. What they won't play on repeat are the answers that made the most sense. Like when he's talking about the failures in the military. Afghanistan came up over and over again. But the failures in the military and the lack of accountability that we've seen in this country for decades with that leadership.
Just elaborating a little bit about the wokeness, where it comes from, and who will be held accountable.
The wokeness comes not from the uniform ranked, Senator, but from the political class. On day one, on January 20th, when President Trump is sworn in, he will issue a new set of lawful orders. And the leadership of our services will have an opportunity to follow those lawful orders or not. Those lawful orders will not be based on politics. They will be based on readiness, accountability, standards, and lethality. That is the process by which leaders will be judged. And accountability is coming because everybody in this room knows if you're a rifleman and you lose your rifle, they're throwing the book at you. Mm-hmm. But if you're a general who loses a war, you get a promotion.
Yep.
That's not going to happen in Donald Trump's Pentagon. There will be real standards for success. Everyone from the top, from the most senior general to the most lowly private, will ensure that they're treated fairly, men and women, inside that system.
This is what we need. Accountability. Nobody has been held accountable for what happened in Afghanistan. Joe Biden's going to come on national TV tonight, and he's going to tout all of his accomplishments. Yet the failures outweigh anything positive he's ever done, if you can find something positive he's done. Afghanistan came up time and time again. In fact, at one point, Hegseth said, listen, Afghanistan is why we're here. We're here because of the failures in the military, because of the failures from the Biden-Harris administration. That's That's pretty much why Trump won.
There's been no accountability for the disaster of the withdrawal in Afghanistan. And that's precisely why we're here today.
Excuse me.
Is that leadership has been unwilling to take accountability. It's the time to restore that to our most senior ranks.
Let's go. Let's hold everybody accountable. From the highest ranks of leadership down to the lowest. Doesn't that sound fair? I think that sounds fair. I think that sounds reasonable. But Hegseth went even a bit further about the Afghanistan withdrawal. And, you know, he needs to highlight this because this is the mess he's coming in to clean up. What happened in Afghanistan, the liberal establishment wants you to forget. They'd rather you not remember. But this is a main reason why Trump won. Because those failures need to be fixed.
Secretary Austin testified before the House Armed Services Committee a couple of years ago, and responding to a question from me said he had, quote, no regrets about what happened in Afghanistan. I wonder, what do you make of that?
Senator, it's shameful. They still tout it as the most successful airlift in American history, when what the rest of us all saw was true laid before our eyes. Utter failure, a destruction of a military legacy there, abandonment of our allies, death of American troops, detriment to our reputation, and then no answers and no accountability on the other side. And then what was unleashed because of what happened in Afghanistan? The October 7th attacks, an invasion into Ukraine. The world recognized weakness for what it was. And who bore the brunt for it? The troops on the front lines at Abbey Gate doing an impossible job whose external security was the Taliban?
Yep. Where's the lie?
Because there was no actual plan for this under the Biden administration. And yet, not a single person, the only person held accountable in those moments was a Marine Corps lieutenant colonel who had the courage to stand up and say someone should be held accountable for that. His name is Stu Scheller.
I love that he brought up Stu Scheller. Love that.
No one else involved has ever taken accountability for it. And when that microcosm becomes the reality of the perception of the American military or America's commitment to victory and success and positive outcomes, the world responds to that. President Trump is going to restore real deterrence by bringing a real warrior culture back, rebuilding our military, and ending wars properly. And if we have to fight them, winning them decisively.
I love that answer. End the wars properly. If you got to fight them, win them decisively. Taking your calls when we get back, 615-737-9986. Plus, we have more reaction from Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing, including Joni Ernst, who was a bit of a holdout, but now she's on Team Hegseth. I see our friend from Canada, Gord, is on the line, and he wants to talk Hegseth. That'll be interesting. We'll get to you next, Gord. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Coming up on Super Talk 99.7, a tragedy after a car breaks down in Antioch last night. And why the government is going after Elon Musk again. Those stories at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. 9:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. Our friend from the 51st state, Gord, is on the line. What's up, Gord? You got a comment on Hegseth?
How you doing? I heard it's cold up down there. Hey, dealing with a little cold there. I did the conversion on the Fahrenheit 29. You're looking at -2 Celsius there.
Oh man, it is.
So that's proper. Yeah, I got a little bit of advice for you. That is to keep the base layer. You want to keep it sealed up. So tuck your shirt into your pants, even into your long undies, if you're possible. That'll help you keep that base layer sealed up.
Good to know. We appreciate the advice from our neighbors to the north. What do you think of my shirt today, Gord? You like it?
It's God, you got to go. You got anywhere else you shop other than I mean, that's a whole different section of Marshalls we're dealing with now, but it is a Marshall shirt, and I think you know that. But I was curious there about, I didn't watch the whole confirmation. The only thing up here in Canada, we don't know that much about Hegseth other than him being a Fox News guy, right? We know him as that mostly. And then I remember him, though, from a news story. Did they bring it up at all? They must have, because there's that really famous guy who did real big-time war crimes. His name is Eddie Gallagher. And he famously did a bunch of really heinous war crimes, and he took photographs of himself with murdered, somebody murdered in captivity. And I guess Hegseth was the main guy pushing to get those guys pardoned for their war crimes, for murdering innocent people. Did they bring that one up or no?
I actually didn't hear that brought up, but it's something I'll definitely look into.
Lord. You got to look into that. He actually got them pardoned. They actually got pardoned, 3 of them for doing war. They got convicted of war crimes for murdering an elderly man and shooting indiscriminately.
Who was it that pardoned them?
Donald Trump, President Donald
then I would imagine that they deserved it. You know, Biden gives out pardons to his.
If somebody
Biden gives out pardons to his son.
If Donald Trump did it, they must have deserved it. The guys who did literal war crimes. You're comparing people who did literal war crimes to somebody who did cocaine and had drug crimes. You're actually comparing those two things, and you're actually saying on the air publicly right now, Chris Hand, that you believe that it is worse to be a drug addict than it is to do actual war crimes and murder innocent people.
I think making money off your father's name is pretty bad. I'm
pretty bad. But you want to know what else is pretty bad?
I'm definitely going to look into the war crimes.
Money off of his Eddie Gallagher's making money off his war crimes as well. So you think that's worse? Like he literally look into them.
Was Eddie Gallagher named to Secretary of the DOD? Is Eddie Gallagher in the cabinet?
Pete Hegseth openly lobbied for him to be pardoned for those war crimes.
Pete Hegseth looks up for veterans often.
You don't want to let me say what the war crimes were. Okay, so the war crimes were that
you're wide open. It's all you.
Shot indiscriminately into a group of people and killed an innocent elderly man and a young girl. And then, while in captivity, had an ISIS person in captivity and stabbed them to death, and then posed photos and sent them around. They're famous photos. The fact that you haven't heard of them before is pretty crazy to me. It was a really famous thing.
Is it?
So yeah, that's what they were. Yeah, it was really famous for people outside of America, just to show how.
So this is disqualifying. This is disqualifying for Pete Hegseth.
I didn't say that at all. I have a question for you, though, Chris. Do you think you could be a little bit more smug? Do you think it would be helpful? No, I'm serious. Do you think it's helpful to, like for partisan politics? Do you have a sort of a concept of how partisan politics work? And do you really think it's helpful, your smug attitude towards things? Do you think it's really good to rub the nose of the people, rub their nose into the crap of the people who are going to be in power in 4 years?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that it maybe creates the same cycle over and over again? Smug idiots like you making money off of this stuff.
I'm serious, pumped. I'm pumped you called. I wanted to say thank you.
Good job, buddy. Good job.
I wanted
Chris.
to say thank you.
Smugness, man.
Because
keep up the smugness, man. Keep laughing about it.
I will.
You're a geek and nobody likes you.
I love you, Gord. Here's the thing. I just want to say thank you while you're on the line for buying all those, agreeing to buy all those submarines to offset the trade deficit. Canada announced that they're going to be buying a bunch of submarines from America to offset the trade deficit because they're worried about the American tariffs ruining your economy. So thanks, pal. Appreciate you. It's 10:01 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 10 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. A woman whose car broke down along Murfreesboro Pike in Antioch has died. She's not yet been identified, but police are saying the woman exited her car and began walking along a turn lane around 10 o'clock last night. But an approaching car had to slam on its brakes to avoid her, and the car behind that one had to swerve to avoid crashing into the first vehicle and ended up hitting the woman. She died at the scene. Kentucky police arresting a 21-year-old mother after they found her two children, a toddler and a 7-month-old, buckled into a car seat and a swing for days. This happened in Franklin County. The children were covered in feces and urine and appeared to be malnourished. The children's father and grandparents also arrested. All have been charged with criminal neglect. Well, she is apparently no pushover. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi is sitting before the Senate Judiciary Committee right now. Her confirmation hearing for Attorney General. She was being questioned by Democrat Senator Dick Durbin about President Trump's 2021 phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State regarding the election results.
Find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that and may have been taken out of context.
Senator Marco Rubio is sitting down for his confirmation hearing for Secretary of State today. Facebook's new parent company is back in the news today after pulling back on DEI measures and capping its fact checkers. Meta has announced it's cutting 5% of its 72,000 workforce. In a memo, Mark Zuckerberg telling employees that 2025 will be an intense year. And the SEC suing Elon Musk over his purchase of Twitter. It claims that Musk committed securities fraud by failing to disclose that he had amassed an active stake in the social media company, and it allowed him to buy shares of Twitter at what they call artificially low prices. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Stocks jumped this morning after the latest inflation report, which said core inflation slowed unexpectedly in December. Still, inflation rose at 3.2%. It's a notch lower from previous months. The Dow Jones Industrials right now trading 642 higher. The Nasdaq is up 407, and the S&P 500 index is plus 94. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 10:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We're talking about Pete Hegseth. Your thoughts on him at 615-737-9986. Hey, to our last caller, Gord, Eddie Gallagher was acquitted, by the way. Just an FYI. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. Pam Bondi is currently doing her confirmation hearing right now. She's going to be Trump's next attorney general. I hope she does a good job. I was looking forward to Matt Gaetz, but they kind of got rid of him very, very quickly. But Pam seems like she's pretty solid, and she's ready to go. Much like the rest of Trump's picks, Marco Rubio is also sitting down currently for his confirmation hearing. Hegseth just absolutely hit a slam dunk yesterday, home run, nailed it. Even leftists, even liberal senators understood that. Mark Kelly out of Arizona, he was as honest as he could be on CNN, and I don't know if CNN really appreciated this.
And I have to say, to give him some credit here, when asked about the policy stuff, I thought he was pretty good.
He was pretty good. Listen, Hegseth just nailed it. Scott Jennings was he was on CNN as well, and he's on CNN with Dana Bash, and her face when Scott Jennings lays this down is just I would imagine that it's the same face somebody with irritable bowel syndrome would make.
Well, in short, I think Pete Hegseth kicked their asses today. I mean, it wasn't even close. They didn't lay a glove on Hegseth. No mistakes, calm, cool, collected. I mean, before the thing even started, you had this like Code Pink, protester freak show trying to disrupt the hearing. That's the Democratic base, by the way.
Did you see the Code Pink people? There were like 4 of them that had to be carried out of the hearing. That's the left. That's the modern day left for you. Radicals.
Which probably explains why the Democrats on the committee acted in such a bizarre and unprofessional way. I was appalled at some of the way these senators handled themselves and some of the lines of questioning. I mean, Tim Kaine sounded like a sex pervert in his questioning of Pete Hegseth. Blumenthal, who lied about his service in Vietnam, questioning Hegseth's qualifications. You had Gillibrand, you had Warren, you had Hirono going on unhinged rants about things. Angus King obviously doesn't understand what it's like to fight terrorism. On and on and on. Hegseth was cool in the face of this unhinged questioning. They made him look good today. It would be difficult for a Republican to vote against Hegseth after the Democrats' unseemly mudslinging today.
Yeah, it would. And listen, the Republicans have been essentially threatened by many in the conservative ecosystem, saying if you do vote against Hegseth, it's going to be primaries. Deal with it. And you know what? The ones that look like they were going to vote against him have come around. Senator Joni Ernst saying essentially, yeah, she's on Team Hegseth. And this was one of the senators that we were worried about was Joni Ernst. But she said officially she will be voting yes to confirm Pete Hegseth. She said that yesterday on a radio show after the confirmation hearings.
So to have someone that is willing to cut through that and get back to where we're focusing on readiness for our men and women, because Simon, that's an important part for me, is that we recognize that women do have an important role in our military. And so he was adequately able to answer all of my questions. He pointed out the woke issues at the Pentagon. And I think we're at a point where now we can start moving forward. People know where he stands on these issues.
Yep.
So I felt it was a good hearing.
I thought it was a good hearing for him. Does he have your vote?
I am breaking news, Simon. I figured you would ask this. So, yes, I will be supporting President Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
That was one of the senators that people were worried about was Joni Ernst. She's now a firm yes on Hegseth. Will in Nashville, your thoughts on Pete Hegseth. Can you pot Will up in there? Will, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Will? Yo, Will, what's up, man? Will is not there. We'll go to Brian in Nashville. You're next on Super Talk. What's up, Brian?
Sounds like Will's too busy to talk. Sound like a bunch of children. Hey,
what's up, man?
That guy can't carry your jockstrap, bro. That dude that just called, I would say this on the air. Give him my number. I'd love to debate him anytime. I'm just a regular guy from a military family. Anybody who wants to call in and say things that he said, they're the ones that need to leave the country, and you can't make them. So, but that's who our military stands up for, is guys like him. Unfortunately, that's all I got. Have a great day. You do a great job. I love you, bro.
I appreciate the call, Brian. Thanks so much, man. 615-737-9986 if you want to join the show. Hegseth just absolutely won everybody over yesterday. Pam Bondi, I think, is doing the same thing right now during her confirmation hearing. Though, to be fair, Pam Bondi didn't come in with the same kind of smear campaign levied against her that was levied against Pete Hegseth. It's just not similar at all. I mean, they went after Hegseth as hard as they could. And I think it's because he's not bought and paid for by the defense contractors, by the military-industrial complex. That's not him. He's not that guy. He's boots on the ground, and he's going to be ready to go day one. Pam Bondi's up there right now facing questions from Senator Coons is questioning her right now. We'll be bringing you audio on the way. But we got 5 days until the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. We need to get these confirmations done ASAP. We understand that the country is in a very precarious position right now via the wide open southern border, via the special interest aliens that we know have been coming over that border. We are waiting for another shoe to drop when it comes to terrorism. And we need real leadership in this country. Donald Trump is trying to put that real leadership in place. We need to speed this process up. Steve and Mount Juliet, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Steve?
Good morning.
How we doing, sir?
We are doing excellent. Watching Pete yesterday reminded me of a great quote from the first Conan the Barbarian movie, where Conan says, "To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women." If we're going to get into a war, then we go in and we just totally annihilate and obliterate the enemy and win. The longer it goes on, the worse it is for us.
Yep, absolutely. I loved it when he said, "Listen, if we're going to get out, let's get out, competently, and if we have to fight, let's win decisively."
There is no such thing as a fair fight.
Yep, exactly. I appreciate the call, Steve. Thanks so much. We got Pam Bondi up there right now, and she's making her case to be confirmed.
If confirmed as the next Attorney General of the United States, my overriding objective will be to return the Department of Justice to its core mission of keeping Americans safe and vigorously prosecuting criminals.
Underline criminals, because it seems like Biden's Department of Justice was more focused on going after political enemies.
And that includes getting back to basics: gangs, drugs, terrorists, cartels, our border, and our foreign adversaries.
That's what we need. Pam Bondi also talked a lot about the two-tier justice system that we've seen on full display these last 4 years.
Like the president, I believe we are on the cusp of a new golden age where the Department of Justice can and will do better if I am confirmed. Lastly, and most importantly, if confirmed, I will fight every day to restore confidence and integrity to the Department of Justice and each of its components. The partisanship, the weaponization will be gone. America will have one tier of justice for all.
That's what we want. Not a special tier for the elites, a special tier for the people that were on the client list of Jeffrey Epstein. Pam Bondi, if you've been paying attention, there's lots of clips of her going around where she's talking about we need to release the Epstein client list. We need to get to the bottom of the human trafficking in this country. Her and Kash Patel, I think, are going to be very, very pivotal in that area. And she said as much during her opening statements, human trafficking is going to be a top priority for her.
Human trafficking became a top priority for me as Attorney General. I had the opportunity on a bipartisan trip to go to Mexico. And the one thing I found out there, they were doing better than we were. They had safe houses. I saw things I never dreamed I would see. And all of these things in my past have formed the person I am right now, sitting here before you. I came back to Florida. We started a human trafficking council, and we partnered with others, and we expanded and added safe houses in the state of Florida. I don't know how many are in this country right now, but I would like to partner with both sides, if confirmed, to continue those efforts.
Yeah, we need to. You know, the modern day slavery that's happening in this country via human trafficking, via the wide open southern border has to stop. You know, you get all these people. It's like, oh, we need to do DEI because of slavery in the past. It's like, you understand that this is still happening today, right? In fact, slavery is a bigger moneymaker now than it's ever been. It's wider spread now than it's ever been. And we're a month away from the Super Bowl, less than a month away from the Super Bowl, which is essentially it's the human trafficking event of the world. It's like the biggest human trafficking event, bar none. We need to get to this, and we need to fix it. You got kids being sold into sex slavery, women being sold into sex slavery. We need a competent Justice Department that's going to look at it, not look the other way. And it feels like Biden's Justice Department has looked the other way. Feels like a lot of Justice Departments have looked the other way for years and years and years. Pam Bondi is not about to take that same lane. Kevin in Nashville, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Kevin?
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
How we doing, man?
The biggest thing that I say about any of those up in Congress that were hammering on Pete Hegseth is let's open up Epstein's black book. Let's go through Diddy's files and see how many of them sit down and get quiet and their rear ends pucker up.
100%. I mean, it was hilarious to me when Tim Kaine was calling out Hegseth about his infidelity, which, again, we don't condone. Like, I'm not a fan of that. But you ran with Hillary Clinton, who her husband was on the Lolita Express 26-something times. How many visits did he have to the island?
There were several, and there were a couple of times he ditched his security.
Yep.
So they couldn't be witnesses, probably. But the other thing is, even with that, people go through bad periods in their lives. Some people come back from it and they can be redeemed. You don't just continue to crucify somebody over something like that. So, like I said, throw open Epstein's books and Diddy's records and see how many of them sit down and get quiet.
Yep, you're absolutely right, and I appreciate the call, Kevin. You know, there's a redeeming factor through Christ, which is what Hegseth highlighted. Yes, I've made errors. He owned his errors, and he said, I'm redeemed through Christ. Everybody can be redeemed through Christ. Now, there are some things I don't think you can come back from. Engaging in child sex slavery, no. Wood chipper, feet first.
That's probably the top of the list of like non-forgiveness.
Yeah, wood chipper, feet first. Like, that's between you and the Lord. That's between you and the Lord. But the hypocrisy that was on full display yesterday. Mark Wayne Mullins highlighted the hypocrisy, and he was absolutely on point when he called out every single Democrat who's been wagging their finger at Hegseth yesterday during those hearings. This is what it sounded like.
Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes.
Reading, writing, and cocaine? A middle school teacher is under arrest. And what Kamala Harris has refused to do to welcome the new vice president's family to Washington. That's coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. We are 5 days away from the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. And we're also, 5 days away from a new, fresh pardon list from Joe Biden, right? Everybody's begging for one. You got your J6 committee members. You got Michael Cohen on MSNBC practically groveling for one. He gave one out to his son. And it's like a blanket pardon. Now, David Weiss released his report on Hunter Biden, and he confirmed that Hunter made millions on the family name, slams Joe Biden for the pardon. And Weiss wrote, when discussing the multiple judges that ruled prosecution was not vindictive, he said, calling those rulings into question and injecting partisanship into the independent administration of the law undermines the very foundation of what makes America's justice system fair and equitable. It erodes public confidence in an institution that is essential to preserving the rule of law. Weiss said the president's claims that this was political doesn't just harm prosecutors, but the Department of Justice and other government officials. He wrote, politicians who attack the decisions of career prosecutors as politically motivated when they disagree with the outcome of a case undermines the public's confidence in our criminal justice system. The president's statement unfairly impugned the integrity of not only the Department of Justice personnel, but all of the public servants making these difficult decisions in good faith. Weiss alleged that Hunter used his last name to secure business opportunities, chose not to pay more than $1.5 million in taxes, despite making over $7 million in that same period. He wrote, as a well-educated lawyer and businessman, Mr. Biden consciously and willfully chose not to pay at least $1.4 million in taxes over a 4-year period. Mr. Biden received more than $7 million in total gross income in that period, including approximately $1.5 million in 2016, $2.3 million in 2017, $2.1 million in 2018, $1 million in 2019, and about $200K from January through October 15th, 2020. He said Mr. Biden made this money by using his last name and connections. Clearly. Weiss added that Hunter spent millions of dollars on an extravagant lifestyle rather than paying his tax bills. Weiss continued, these are not inconsequential or technical tax code violations, nor can Biden's conduct be explained away by his drug use most glaringly. Weiss also accused Biden, the senior, of attempting to rewrite history, and he wrote the Constitution provides the president with broad authority to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, but nowhere does the Constitution give the president the authority to rewrite history. I think more charges need to be brought up against Hunter Biden. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I wish a state prosecutor would find him on a state charge somewhere, because I think these crimes need to be dealt with. We're going to be talking with the CEO of Marco Polo, who did a deep dive, if you will, on the Hunter Biden laptop in the lead up to 2020. And it gained a lot of news and notoriety. But I think that in light of the David Weiss report, it's a good opportunity to really dive into what those crimes were in detail. Not just the crimes we heard about, but the crimes we didn't hear about. And this guy, Garrett Ziegler over at Marco Polo, he's the guy to talk to. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation at 10:35. In the meantime, we do have Pam Bondi up there during her confirmation hearing, and she's given it back to Democrats as best she can. One Dem senator had the script flipped on him by the questioning about weaponization of the justice system.
And it would not be appropriate for a prosecutor to start with a name and look for a crime. It's a prosecutor's job to start with a crime and look for a name, correct?
Senator, I think that is the whole problem with the weaponization that we have seen the last 4 years and what's been happening to Donald Trump. They targeted Donald Trump. They went after him, actually starting back in 2016. They targeted his campaign.
Yep.
They have launched countless investigations against him. That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. Senator, we've got to bring this country back together. We've got to move forward, or we're going to lose our country.
Yeah, she's absolutely right. Now, that being said, I think there are plenty of issues that we can look into. Plenty. And we're going to start that conversation with Garrett Ziegler when we return after the news with Joan Jones, which starts right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 10:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. John Ratcliffe, President-elect Trump's pick to lead the CIA, testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee for his confirmation hearing. Ratcliffe is a former Texas congressman, and he was director of national intelligence during Trump's first term. Well, during opening remarks today, he talked about what he calls the challenging national security environment, citing his experience as the director of national intelligence.
The Chinese Communist Party remains committed to dominating the world economically, militarily, and technologically. Transnational criminal organizations are flooding American communities with violence and deadly narcotics.
Pam Bondi is right now sitting before the Senate Judiciary Committee, her nomination hearings for Attorney General. A Cheatham Middle School 6th grade teacher is behind bars after deputies discovered 24-year-old Mia King brought cocaine to school with her. Channel 4's Brendan Tierney.
3 baggies of cocaine were found in an English teacher's purse at Cheatham Middle School.
It's scary.
Parents like Dakota Love say they were shocked to hear deputies arrested Maya King. They say her 6th grade classroom had a spoon for taking hits and a rolled up $5 bill covered in white powder.
I couldn't imagine if it was my son in that class and had that teacher. Could have got a hold of those drugs.
Deputies say the 24-year-old teacher was high when they started asking her questions about the drugs that were easily visible.
So peaceful transfer of power? Maybe not. CBS News is reporting that Vice President Kamala Harris has refused to host a courtesy walkthrough or even a sit-down at the vice presidential residence for the Vance family. On Monday, when J.D. Vance and wife Usha and their 3 young children move into the National Observatory, that's the name of the residence, it'll be their first time seeing it. People close to Harris say she has been focused on an overseas trip and on the California wildfires. That is the latest news. We've got weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 10:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. Joe Biden said the investigation against Hunter was gratuitous and wrong. Special counsel David Weiss slammed that in his report that he released on Monday. And I think that the investigation really just scratched the surface. So joining us now on the line, CEO of the Marco Polo Project, Garrett Ziegler. Garrett, thanks for joining us, man.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. I agree with you that it just scratched the surface, and one of the most tragic things is this final report that Weiss had to issue was the legal definition of a punt. He didn't cover anything. It was 27 pages. Of course, that compares to 175 in just the first volume with Jack Smith. And really, Weiss is a man without a chest. I mean, this is a true coward.
So I think before we get into David Weiss and the report that was released on Monday, kind of give a background on what you guys did with the Hunter Biden laptop at Marco Polo.
Yeah, so Marco Polo is a 501c3. We were founded in 2021. And we took about 15 months to go through every file on the Biden laptop. Throughout those 15 months, we actually created a searchable public database that any of your listeners can go to right now, BidenLaptopEmails.com, and view and or download all 128,000 emails from the device. And during those 15 months, we found every violation of law and regulation in the device, and that number is 459. In October of 2022, we released a 640-page dossier on the device, and that has been the subject of hundreds of articles, and now Hunter is suing us over that book, along with his sugar brother, Kevin Morris. So we believe this has been our beat, really, Chris, for over 3 years, and we know this issue better than anyone on the planet. And Weiss, the tragic thing with Weiss and why I started off with that is we have a lot of data from his laptop, over 200 gigabytes, that he abandoned in Delaware, right? But Weiss has subpoena power. So there are things Weiss is sitting on that private sector investigators like us, we're essentially a PI firm, a nonprofit PI firm. One of our board members is a PI and the other one's an attorney. I did all the writing. And, we basically tracked every single felony they committed. And those felonies, by the way, run the gamut. The ones they charged Hunter on weren't even a slap on the wrist. Slap on the wrist is above what they did. First of all, the gun charge in Delaware was stupid, and the taxes are just a mirage. They're a limited hangout. What we should have saw from Weiss are criminal charges of FARA and money laundering, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And even if he gets pardoned for that, there's no reason for Weiss not to put this in the final report. So, this has been a beat for us that's going on 3 years, and it's just, Weiss had one last chance to redeem himself.
What were the most egregious things that you found on the laptop?
The money laundering and Foreign Agent Registration Act violations with the Chinese communists, very specifically Ye Jingming, Patrick Ho, Mervyn Yan, Gong Wendong, Liu Yadong. These are all names that are in this book. By the way, your listeners can go read this book for free online at BidenReport.com. We've had 10 million IP address hits. 10 million people have seen it. BidenReport.com, and it's keyword searchable. And so really, our book is broken down into 3 sections, but your question pertains to the first section of our book, which is business-related crimes. We believe these crimes have an impact on the entire American public because it relates to our relations with foreign countries. Hunter's sex and drug-related crimes are interesting, egregious, and pathetic, but they're not necessarily related to the public at whole.
Got you. As we're kind of going down this line and he has the federal pardon, do you think that there's anything that he could still be brought up for charges on with what you have on the laptop?
Yes, but the statute of limitations is running out. The left figured this out with Alvin Bragg and Fani, although both of those cases are going to ultimately be null and void, and one of them already is because of his resounding victory. But state and local offenses obviously are not covered by federal pardons. So it's sort of like a matrix to figure out which crimes can be charged at the state level, number one. Number two, are they within the statute of limitations? And number three, are they within a jurisdiction that is run by a competent, honorable person? Now, Hunter committed a lot of local and state offenses in very blue areas, and those people don't care about equal application of the law, so ergo, he's not going to be charged. But one state is under the purview of reasonable people, or at least so we thought, which is Arkansas. Arkansas, just 90 minutes from you to the west, Arkansas is the state that was the hometown of Hunter's financial advisor, Edward Pruitt. He lives in Fayetteville, which is a little bit more than 90 minutes away from you, but still in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And Fayetteville has in the state of Arkansas writ large, the county of, I don't know which county Fayetteville's in, but that county prosecutor and the state at large has jurisdictions on most of the wire transfers that came to Hunter Biden because his financial advisor lived in Arkansas. Again, to courageous, public-spirited prosecutors, this is a dream because it's in a place where a jury of Hunter's peers is not going to be overwhelmingly left-wing. Like it's basically a very important ticking time bomb, though, Chris, because that conduct is going to be butting up to the 5-year statute of limitations on certain money laundering offenses within Arkansas. So our last hope is that a state and local prosecutor gains some backbone and does something, because Joe has absolved him of 10 years and 11 months of felonious conduct.
It's absolutely insane to watch it happen, and then they say that there's no weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, the thing is that, Hunter, with this pardon, is not just going to be free and clear from the federal legal system, but the legal the liberal legal folks within the bar associations in D.C. and Connecticut are probably going to let him stay on the rolls. So even after he got convicted of a felony in Delaware, they just put him on temporary disciplinary status. Whereas, people on our side, like Jeff Clark, are trying to be disbarred for providing legal counsel to the sitting president of the United States. So I agree with you completely that the situation is extraordinarily distressing. But I think what's even more insane is that the private sector, quote unquote private sector, if you want to call it the bar associations, that are just as corrupt as the public sector folks. So of course we've met, our group Marco Polo, we've met with folks from Arkansas laying out this evidence. All we can do is provide what's in the public domain, which is the contents of his, abandoned laptop. And then, but he's the whole family. Joe is directing this litigation against us. We know that for a fact because Hunter's Sugar Brothers also suing us in state court in California over ridiculous claims of intentional infliction of emotional distress. I guess when you expose people's corruption and illegality, they have emotional distress. But we didn't inflict that emotional distress. They did by their own actions.
So, I guess what happens next? Is anything going to come of Hunter Biden?
At the federal level, no. At the state and local level, that's where the jury is still out. And that is why, precisely, I'm so angry, because justice is such a high bar, right? Hunter, through his daddy's basement campaign, got away with it at the federal level. But what is so distressing about Weiss is that even though justice was denied to the people, he didn't even have the courage to provide the truth, right? Truth is a bar just a little bit below justice, meaning you can have truth without justice, but you cannot have justice without truth. And we're not even going to get that from Weiss. Like, he had this opportunity on Monday. Of course, they released it at 5:55 Eastern time, pathetically, on Monday night. So, right, when the news is already broke for the day.
Yep.
Weiss had one opportunity to at least provide the truth to the public. So he's what C.S. Lewis would call a man without a chest. And it's really distressing. This is breaking news. Well, I guess it's about 6 hours old, and it's something I vociferously disagree with. Grassley says that he doesn't believe he's going to try to call in Weiss for a hearing, which again is ridiculous, because the only way that would have been possible is if Weiss would have put together a legitimate report. But, Mueller got to have his hearing, I think, too, maybe. Robert Hur, when he basically said that the folks on the jury would see Joe as a geriatric who couldn't remember anything. So we really need to have Weiss, because he punted so terribly and pathetically and cowardly on this report. We really need Weiss to come in for a hearing. And so I'm going to be pushing the House members. And now Jordan has a little bit of a different opinion. And so, if the Senate wants to punt on this too, then Jordan can just call their bluff and bring Weiss in. But I want Weiss, Leslie Wolf, the AUSA, who got Joe's name out of the search warrant. Both of those folks have to testify publicly.
Yeah. Do you think this is a Weiss issue, not having a chest, or is this just the justice system as a whole?
This is Weiss, and for one principal reason. When he was exposed by the two IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, no relation to me, by the way. When that happened, he could have actually tried to enforce the law equally against Hunter. And what do I mean by that? When they went public with those documents and did the public hearings, Weiss could have came back with a 19-count money laundering and FAR violation indictment against Hunter. That's what justice would have required. But instead, he fired both of the whistleblowers, switched out his team so nobody had to answer questions anymore, namely Leslie Wolf, Sean Weedy, Shannon Hansen. He basically did a cover-up within a cover-up. I call it the inception of corruption. Weiss had two distinct corrupt acts in this, firing the whistleblowers, and then when the whistleblowers were fired, he never brought the charges that justice dictated. Remember, I usually don't speak so forcefully on these matters, Chris, if I don't have the primary source evidence, right? That's why Hunter's not suing us for defamation. If we didn't have this guy's abandoned laptop, we wouldn't be able to speak so confidently about his conduct, correct?
Yep.
So it's all about the fact that this is one of the few times in American history where the public has some of the primary source material that the investigators have. That's what makes this so uncomfortable for corrupt and cowardly actors, because the public can see what they're not acting on.
When we see David Weiss in this weak report, is that just a symptom of the deep state? Are we looking at deep state actors?
I believe that Weiss is a member of the deep state, but not all of his team is, right? So I think that you can be cowardly and not be a member of the deep state. The reason why I think Weiss is because he's been a total institution in Delaware, beloved by both parties. And one thing that is common in Delaware is what they call the Delaware way, which is just basically this chummy, bipartisan, legalized, soft corruption that he has. First of all, he's been in the AUSA there since 2005. He's like the Rod Rosenstein of Delaware. Rod Rosenstein obviously was the U.S. attorney from 2005 to 2017 in the District of Maryland. Weiss, same thing, been there over a decade, totally entrenched. What I call these people is, Weiss is very bipartisan. He's just he's so bipartisan, Chris, that he's melted that into the uniparty. So that's again why it's so essential that they call him in for a hearing. And, of course, I'm going to be sending this interview directly to the House members that they have to do this. They cannot – and, again, it can be in April. It can be after the first 100 days. But there's nothing that should prevent them from calling him in. I want to draw your listeners' attention real quick to the last line of this 27-page report. By the way, our report, 644 pages. Jack Smith, in his report, most of Jack Smith's report was bogus because – we have no clue about the primary source evidence that he's talking about. It's just quotes from people who were interviewed. With the Biden report, we have his abandoned laptop. The final page on page 27. It's so disgusting. Here it is. Accordingly, because of the full and unconditional pardon, I cannot make any additional charging decisions as to Mr. Biden's conduct during that time period. It would be inappropriate to discuss whether additional charges are warranted. Well, wow, he just cleaned his hands. I mean, basically, it was his subjective BS interpretation of what's appropriate. So he didn't think it was appropriate for the American people to hear the truth. It was we put this on Twitter, it's even more warranted now that he's pardoned.
Amen.
Because he's not going to be,
That's
the charging,
That's the line that stood out to me too. It'd be inappropriate. It's like, really? Would it be inappropriate?
It's inappropriate for him to be cowardly. And remember, he took in his office. Again, this pales in comparison to Smith. We have it on good authority from the DOJ's own website. If you extrapolate the last 90 days, because they have to release their budget every 90 days, these special counsel's offices, Smith has spent over $40 million If we extrapolate those numbers, it's going to be over $70 million.
Insanity.
Weiss has spent over $5 million, and he puts together a report. And I'm not being mean. This is my honest to God opinion. He put together a report that a 10th grader could do. A 10th grader could have put together this 27-page report. That was very yeah. So I mean, this is not worth our money.
No.
$5 million for this? It's like if he's going to get pardoned, okay, his daddy pulled the strings for him, but at least talk about the FARA violations. All Weiss could muster is that quote Hunter, and I'm reading this at page 21. Hunter made money off his last name. That's all he could muster.
Yep.
Absolutely pathetic.
It was underwhelming.
Everybody knew that.
It was underwhelming at best.
Yeah, precisely. And so that's why we have if he's not going to give the truth to us in the public report, the least he can do is get called in and talk to the members.
Yeah.
So I hope that if that does happen, I can come on your program again and talk about it.
Hey, anytime. Garrett Ziegler from Marco Polo, the utmost authority on the Hunter Biden laptop and scandals that happened with the Biden family and selling their name for influence. I appreciate your time, Garrett. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Anytime. God bless. It is 10:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Chris Hand here, and I want to tell you about my friend Shane Ring over at Cover Nash. Do you need health insurance? Talk to Shane. Shane's got over 20 years of experience in health insurance, and he's going to shop the entire market for you to find the best plan. When we say the entire market, he means it. He has over 75 different companies to shop from and every type of plan available for you, and he can help you no matter what your income or health situation is. So don't let someone you know or yourself get taken advantage of by call center agents and limited overpriced health coverage. You don't need that. Shane can easily be saving you 30 to 60% on your monthly premiums. And some of the plans that Shane can get you will even pay you when you use them. It might sound too good to be true, but it's the honest to goodness truth. Talk to Shane Ring today. Give him a call and let him know that Chris Hand sent you. He'll show you how much you could be saving on quality coverage. 615-465-0023, or you can hit his website, covernash.com. That's 615-465-0023 to book an appointment with Shane Ring, or you can hit his website to get a quality health plan managed by you, not the government, covernash.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
United States banning red number 3 dye in food for its link to cancer in lab rats. This story and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Excited that they're actually doing something about the food system before RFK gets in there.
I was getting ready to say, timing is everything, isn't it?
It's weird, right? Spoiler alert, though, red dye 40 has not yet been banned. So that's still on the hit list. We got to get all those dyes out of there. I'll tell you what. The food dye, it's not a meme. Like, you can actually see the difference in kids when they get that dye in them. It's absolutely insane. Pam Bondi dealing with insanity, too, down on Capitol Hill. She's at a confirmation hearing right now, and she triggered more than a few Dems when she was asked about the 2020 election irregularities.
Any doubts that Joe Biden had the majority of votes, electoral votes, necessary to be elected president in 2020?
You know, Senator, all I can tell you as a prosecutor is from my firsthand experience. And I accept the results. I accept, of course, that Joe Biden is president of the United States. But what I can tell you is what I saw firsthand when I went to Pennsylvania as an advocate for the campaign. I was an advocate for the campaign, and I was on the ground in Pennsylvania, and I saw many things there. But do I accept the results? Of course I do. Do I agree with what happened? And I saw so much. You know, no one from either side of the aisle should want there to be any issues with election integrity in our country. We should all want our elections to be free and fair, and the rules and the laws to be followed.
I think that question deserved a yes or no. And I think the length of your answer is an indication that you weren't prepared to answer yes.
Okay. Were there any irregularities? Do you deny the 2020 election? It's like, I wish she was in place instead of Bill Barr. Maybe we could have asked some of those questions instead of just looking the other way. Weird, right? Yeah, it was on the up and up, though. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. While the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is moving to ban the use of red number 3 dye in food products due to its links to cancer in lab rats. This comes after 35 years when it was banned from cosmetics due to its links to cancer in lab rats. FD&C red number 3, also known as red 3, is a synthetic food dye. It gives foods and drinks a bright cherry red color. It is primarily used in foods such as candy, cakes and cupcakes, cookies, frozen desserts, frosting and icings, and some of the drugs we take. At least 2 studies have shown that high levels of the food dye were linked to cancer in rats. However, the link between the dye and cancer does not occur in humans, according to the FDA. Here in Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee just announced a special legislative session to advance his signature school voucher bill. That'll convene January 27th. And another busy day on Capitol Hill as a handful of President-elect Trump's nominees sit for their confirmation hearings. At the Senate Judiciary Committee, Attorney General nominee Pat Bondi. This is Hawaii Democrat U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono.
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election.
Bondi quietly sat and waited for the next question. Other nominees that'll have hearings today include Senator Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Chris Wright to be Secretary of Energy. Back here in Tennessee, people expected to protest where the NCAA is holding its annual convention in Nashville. The demonstrators against the organization allowing men who identify as women to compete in women's sports. Firefighters in Southern California dealing with one more day of high winds before they'll subside for a few days. Alex Stone is on Pacific Coast Highway, or the PCH, in Pacific Palisades.
It's pretty incredible driving into Pacific Palisades in Malibu to see rows and rows of food trucks that are working with World Central Kitchen to feed hot, chef-made meals to the firefighters. They can come in and grab a bite to eat. And the nonstop fire engines coming in from places all over the country, big and small towns, loaning their firefighters to battle the flames.
All right, and getting some breaking news here. The Associated Press is reporting that both sides, that is Hamas and Israel, have agreed to a ceasefire. That is coming from an official in Qatar. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It's 11:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? It's Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. I'm glad you're here, no matter how you're listening, whether you're on the TuneIn app, the iHeartRadio app, you're watching us on Super Talk TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or you're on the 99.7 WTN app. We appreciate it. If you miss anything or you want to hear it again, you can always check the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Tom in the Borough is next on Super Talk. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Chris. Good morning. The last fellow you had on gave a website where you could go ahead and access their report on Hunter Biden. Can you repeat that?
Yes. So the guy we had on was Garrett Ziegler. He's the CEO over at Marco Polo, and he did a huge report on Hunter Biden's laptop. You can get it at bidenreport.com or bidenlaptopemails.com, and he said that all of those are keyword searchable.
I did, and I didn't get anything.
Biden
email.
Okay, so bidenreport.com is the report, and bidenlaptopemails.com. Bidenreport.com, bidenlaptopemails.com.
All one word?
Yes, sir. And both of those work for me. If you want to shoot me a text on the text line, I can send you the links directly.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man, of course. I appreciate you listening. There's a lot to get.
Day.
Yeah, you too, man. A lot to get to today. Pam Bondi currently doing her hearing over on Capitol Hill, and she's up against some of what Hegseth was up against yesterday, especially when it comes to just radical leftist Democrats. She got into it with Democrat Senator Mazie Hirono once again. Mazie, I don't understand how this woman is a U.S. senator, but she is. She is.
So that sounds to me that you're saying that the White House will not have any kind of role. Meanwhile, though, you have an incoming president who said, I have the absolute right to do what I want, to do with the Justice Department. And in fact, President-elect Trump considers the DOJ to be his law firm. I ask you this. If President-elect Trump asks, suggests, or hints that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived political enemies, would you do so?
Senator Hirono, I wish you had met with me. Had you met with me, we could have discussed many things and gotten to know you.
I am listening to you now. Could you respond to the question?
Yeah, you were the only one who refused to meet with me, Senator. But what we would have discussed is that it is the job of the Attorney General to
I'm very
follow
happy to listen
the law.
to your response.
I love how she says, you refused to meet with me. You were the only senator that refused to meet with me. It's my job to follow the law, period.
Responses under oath, Ms. Bondi. So I think it's really important to us that the Attorney General be independent of the White House. And you have a president-elect who considers the AG's office his law firm. I would like to know whether if the president suggests, hints, asks, that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived enemies?
Senator, I certainly have not heard the president say that. But what I will tell you is 2/3 of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice. And it's statements like that, I believe,
Ms.
that make
Bondi.
people continue to lose faith. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, it will be my job
Getting
to
on
not
to my
only
next
keep
question,
America
you're not
safe,
responding.
but restore integrity to that department.
Why don't we
and that's
move
what
on
I
to
plan
something
on
that
doing
you said?
every single day as Attorney General.
You know, there's a recurring theme with Mazie Hirono. When she gets an answer that makes sense that she doesn't like, she just moves on. She did it yesterday with Hegseth. She's doing it again today with Pam Bondi. Mazie Hirono she just has a tough time. She just has a tough time dealing with the truth. You know, Trump's going to go after his political enemies. Okay. Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Plus, let's also just not ignore the fact that the DOJ targeted Trump the last 4 years. 100%. John Kennedy, during this hearing, brought that up.
The most destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so.
What a coincidence, right? Weird.
Now, this is one person's opinion. That kind of stupid takes a plan. And I say that because, number one, this is America. That had never happened before in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat.
John Kennedy is a national treasure. You know, he's saying, listen, they went after political opponents. You don't see that in America. You see that in third world countries. It's hilarious to watch the Democrats go at Pam Bondi saying, you must promise not to go after political opponents. Don't worry about what happened the last 4 years. John Kennedy calling out the hypocrisy.
It doesn't happen here. And I call it stupid because it broke the seal. It broke the seal. It normalized it. There are a lot of ambitious prosecutors in America, Democrat and Republican. And I'll bet you right now there's some prosecutor in a particular state thinking about, well, maybe I ought to file criminal charges against President Biden's inner circle.
I wish they would, personally.
For conspiring to conceal his mental decline.
That'd be nice.
And that's the road we're headed down. And you've got to fix it, Counselor. You've got to fix it. And here's, in my judgment, what I would ask you to do. Find out who the bad guys are and the bad women and get rid of them. Find out who the good people are and lift them up. But do it on the basis of facts and evidence and fairness.
You know, I expect her to do that, but if she does that and she comes up with crimes against Democrats, you understand what the left is going to do. They're going to cry and they're going to scream and they're going to say Donald Trump is targeting his political opponents. You know, we talked to Garrett Ziegler from Marco Polo a little while ago about the Hunter Biden laptop. I'm sure that you can find mountains of evidence against Democrats. I'm sure you can. And if Pam Bondi does, they're going to say that she's politically motivated. But they won't look at what happened the last 4 years with the same eye. They just won't.
Because the temptation of some people is going to be, they're going to tell you, look, two wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. Don't resist that temptation. Help us restore legitimacy.
I mean, I think part of restoring legitimacy would be holding some of these people accountable, 100%. But Pam Bondi is going to have a tough gig. Because if she goes that route, she's going to be smeared and she's going to be beaten down in the media and they're going to call her a political operative. It's wild. And she's getting the Hegseth treatment from a lot of the Democrats on Capitol Hill today during her confirmation hearing. There was another back and forth between Mazie Hirono and Pam Bondi about statements that Trump has made.
During the election, during the campaign, first, are the felons convicted of breaking into the Capitol on January 6th hostages or patriots? I'm quoting Trump, as President-elect Trump has said repeatedly. Do you agree with his characterization of the felons that I referred to?
I am not familiar with that statement, Senator.
I just familiarized you with that statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not familiar with it, Senator.
Okay, no answer. He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
I mean, listen, Mazie Hirono is trying to set her up, and what Pam Bondi's about to do is shut her down.
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement, but what I can tell you is I went to the border a few months ago. I went to Yuma, Arizona, and what I saw at that border was horrific, Senator. It was horrific.
Ms. Bondi,
I went to a rape crisis center.
That is
If I could
not my
finish,
question.
I went to a rape crisis center. Well, I'm not familiar with the statement, but I went to a rape crisis center. I met with Border Patrol agents. I'm sure you've been to the border
Bondi,
as well. So
I
you
want to
could
get
answer
to my
that.
next question.
Yeah, see, this is every time Mazie Hirono, she gets an answer she doesn't like. Well, I'd like to move on to the next question. I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would. Pam Bondi is not the only one going under confirmation hearings today. We also have Secretary of State nominee Marco Rubio, and he's doing his thing as well. I'm not the biggest Marco Rubio fan, but he seems like he's going to get confirmed pretty quickly.
But ultimately, under President Trump, the top priority of the United States Department of State will be the United States. The direction he has given for the conduct of our foreign policy is clear. Every dollar we spend, every program we fund, every policy we pursue must be justified by the answer to one of three questions. Does it make America safer? Does it make America stronger? Or does it make America more prosperous?
I mean, this is common sense that we need to get back to. 100%. This is where we're headed. Back to an era of common sense. 5 days away from the Donald Trump inauguration. And you know what? With 5 days left of the Biden-Harris administration, we actually just received word that Hamas and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire hostage deal. Now, Joe Biden will try and stamp that on his legacy, yet we all remember what Trump said just a few days ago. Hell would be unleashed if the hostages weren't home by his inauguration. You remember this, right? All hell will break out in the Middle East if the hostages aren't returned. That's what Trump said during a press conference. And here we are today on January 15th. We have a hostage and ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel. Again, we're watching the Trump effect in real time.
What that means, don't you? Well, do I have to define it for you? Look, all hell will break out. If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that.
Yeah, people do forget that. And the attack was because of the weakness that Joe Biden put on full display with the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, the ineptitude of the Biden-Harris administration. Trump isn't even back in office yet, and we're seeing positive effects from him. Hamas, Israel agreeing to a ceasefire hostage deal. Huge news. Massive news. About damn time. See, Trump's win isn't just a political victory. We're seeing a cultural win and ideologically a massive victory right now. You're seeing all these corporations coming around, winding down their DEI program. You're going to have Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg sitting on a platform with Trump at the inauguration. You're witnessing in real time the entire world take note of what's happening. And it's going to lead to positive effects for every American, whether they're liberal or conservative. We'll drag everybody kicking and screaming into prosperity and peace. Peace through strength via Donald Trump. It's coming back. Did you see that even Coke gave Donald Trump a commemorative inauguration Diet Coke? Did you see that? You saw it, right?
I need to find this now.
It's like in this like really, really nice box, and it's got the White House on it, and it has the date, and it says commemorative in honor of the inauguration.
Awesome.
But this is the cultural victory. Like this victory has been so decisive. It wasn't just political. It wasn't just ideological. It was cultural. And we're witnessing that in real time. We saw that yesterday with the House passing getting boys out of girls' sports. They passed the bill yesterday, banning transgender girls, quote, in women's sports. And there was a lot of pearl clutching about that. AOC, she had some comments about that bill passing, and Nancy Mace and Jasmine Crockett got into it. And you know, with the Laken Riley Act, we didn't see any Democrats vote in favor of it. But with this bill, we actually did see some Democrats vote for it. We'll cover that on the way. A lot to get to here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And we're going to do it all for you on the Chris Hand Show. It's brought to you by Better Water LLC. And in the meantime, I got to tell you about my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It's that time of year, new comfort, and there are winter warm-up specials from Busy Bee, your Rude Pro partner. When it comes to HVAC, you can't beat these deals. If you purchase a new complete whole home AC, you get free air duct cleaning. If you want to just get the air duct cleaning, buy the medium package. They'll upgrade you to the deluxe package. How about a free furnace checkup with any heating repair service? 15% off indoor air quality products or a complimentary smart thermostat with any HVAC replacement. That way you can control your comfort from anywhere. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling are bringing the savings to you, and these are the best offers for the new year. Like a free home automatic whole home shutoff with leak detection for any main water line. Or you can replace that whole home water repipe. You can get a $300 credit on a tankless conversion install and get $250 off a Smart Auto whole home water shutoff. All these deals and more from your Rude Pro partner, Busy Bee HVAC. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833, busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Israel and Hamas have reached a hostage and ceasefire deal, and the U.S. is moving to ban an ingredient in food linked to cancer in lab rats. We'll tell you about it at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 11:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. So yesterday, the House passed the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. It's a big deal. They're just knocking things off the list, and I'm a huge fan of it. Liberal media, not a huge fan of it. Listen to how CBS News puts it. The House on Tuesday passed a Republican measure banning transgender girls and women from competing on school sports teams that match their gender identity after the party leaned into the issue during the 2024 campaign. Okay.
Okay. I just have to laugh at that.
That's how they frame it.
And women. They had to put women in there to make it sound bad.
And women. Listen, you think CBS was bad. Wait until you hear AOC.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Madam Ranking Member. Here we are today, Republicans who have voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act.
Not true.
Who have taken away the right of all women to choose and have control over their own body.
Not true. It was sent back to the states.
Who, as women, are bleeding out in parking lots across the country, standing there, allowing us to die.
Source, please.
Now want to pretend today that they care about women.
Okay.
And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls.
Well, way to frame it. Way to frame it.
And to that, today, what we have to say are two words: not today.
That's my favorite line. Today, what we have to say are two words: not today. Okay.
The majority right now says there's no place in this bill that says it opens up for genital examinations. Well,
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Here's the thing. There's no enforcement mechanism in this bill. And when there is no enforcement mechanism, you open the door to every enforcement mechanism. Trans girls are girls.
They're not.
And for all the folks that are so concerned, thank you for your concern about women for the first time that I've seen. I don't know about y'all. I don't know who's been to gym class lately, but girls, even if you only believe in two genders, I've played co-ed sports all the time. But what this also opens the door for is for women to try to perform a very specific kind of femininity for the very kind of men who are drafting this bill, and to open up questioning of who is a woman because of how we look, how we present ourselves, and yes, what we choose to do with our bodies. I know who loves this bill. Yes, bigoted folks love this bill. Assaulters love this bill. But also, CEOs love this bill. Because Los Angeles is on fire right now. And this is the number one priority this majority has. Thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. I'll tell you who actually loves this bill. Moms and dads all over the country, grandparents, okay, sane individuals, and the girls who don't want boys in their locker room. That's who loves the bill. And you know what? For all the pearl clutching, Democrats actually voted for this one. It passed the House with 218 voting in favor, 206 voting against, one voting present. Two Democrats from Texas, Reps Henry Cuellar, is that how you pronounce it? Cuellar, and Rep Gonzalez, joined the Republicans in support of the bill. Democrat Rep Don Davis of North Carolina voted present. An overwhelming majority of Americans believe that men don't belong in women's sports and that we must allow common sense to prevail. Rep. Greg Steube out of Florida said, who introduced the bill during the floor debate. Yeah, common sense is coming back. We're witnessing it in real time. Deal with it. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 5 minutes. Right now, hostages held in Hamas grip could soon be freed as Israel and Hamas have reportedly reached a ceasefire agreement. Red dye number 3 being banned in food in the United States 35 years after it was taken out of cosmetics for its links to cancer in lab rats. It is primarily used in foods such as candy, cakes and cupcakes, cookies, frozen desserts, frosting and icings, and some ingested drugs. While studies have shown links of cancer in lab rats, the FDA says there's no evidence of it in humans. Governor Bill Lee calling a special session in Tennessee to deal with the school vouchers plan. Channel 4's Stacey Cameron at the state capitol says the special session means the school voucher bill will be the only issue lawmakers will deal with.
All other legislative matters will be put on hold, and both the House and the Senate will come to order and only deal with those issues. I asked Chairman William Lamberth if he's a Republican, if there would be any tying of disaster relief aid to education reform, the school charter bill. He said no, those two would not be tied together. However, Democrats believe that the governor will be strong-arming some Republicans in rural eastern Tennessee that need that disaster relief, holding a vote over disaster relief. If they don't pass his school voucher bill, they won't get disaster relief. Last week, the governor denied that any kind of strong-arm tactics would be used, but that session, we'll see how it plays out in a week and a half from today when it begins.
Entertainment news, the global music industry hit a new milestone. Here's Sherry Preston.
4.8 million songs were streamed last year, a new record. Luminate's 2024 year-end report says midway through the year, Latin music took the crown as the fastest-growing streaming genre in the U.S. It was quickly overtaken, however, by pop, with female artists like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and Sabrina Carpenter leading the charge. R&B and hip-hop are still kings, though, accounting for a quarter of all music streams in the country.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand here from my friends at the Glock Store. You need to go train at the Glock Store. That's where I go to train, and I honestly wish I was going more often. But when I do it at the Glock Store. Shoot270.com's indoor range is where you have a private shooting room with a personal instructor, not multiple lanes and some stranger shooting next to you. You don't need that. You want that private instruction. You actually shoot less and learn more. And trust me, you're going to learn more. And all month long, if you book a session at shoot270.com, well, you get to shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5 for free just by mentioning my name, Chris Hand. It's a $50 value. You get to do it for free. You just got to buy the ammo. Just say, Chris Hand told me that I could shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5. I've shot that firearm, and it is fun, to put it bluntly, and that's an understatement. It is so cool, man. You got to go down there and do it. You can do it for free all month long by mentioning my name. The right way to train is with a personal instructor in a private shooting room. And after every session, you're coming out better and more confident. And in January, you'll experience the thrill of shooting a full auto MP5. The incredible, incomparable Shoot270.com. That's where you book your sessions. Only in Nashville, only at my place to train, the Glock Store. Minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere. Shoot270.com. Book your session today. It's 11:37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. Really excited to update you on this story. Do you remember early December we had Pastor John Amachukwu on the show? Rev Wu Truth, the book banning pastor. He was a little bit upset because Murfreesboro City Schools have a book in their library entitled It Feels Good to Be Yourself. And he went to the school board meeting, and it sounded like this.
We have this book that's in Bradley Academy, okay? It Feels Good to Be Yourself. It's a book about gender identity. Some people are boys, some people are girls, some people are both, neither or somewhere in between. This book is for kids ages 4 through 8, and that is a lie. This book talks about transgenderism. What 4-year-old can spell the word transgender? Then it talks about being non-binary. If we're going to do what's best for children in this district, it's imperative that we don't put this kind of content in front of children. We want to ban books that seek to pervert the hearts and the minds of children. And why wear red and green and celebrate Christmas if you're not going to protect what Christ stands for? Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, but let's get back to protecting the children, because if we don't, you're celebrating this month in the wrong vein. Officer Hill, Officer Wood, Officer Hay, Officer McAdams, thank you so much, but please do something about the filth that's being taught to our children. God bless you.
So he was removed by police from the Murfreesboro City School Board meeting. And this is Murfreesboro City School Board, not Rutherford County, okay? And I think that's an important distinction. There's two different school boards. I don't know why, but there is. And so they had this book, It Feels Good to Be Yourself. We had John in here, Pastor John, and he read from the book, and it's disturbing. It's like you don't want little kids 4 to 8 reading this stuff and just planting those seeds of doubt in their young minds. It's just insane. And the taxpayers are funding it. The taxpayers are putting this in the libraries at Bradley Academy, me included. I live in Murfreesboro. If you live in Murfreesboro. But we do have an update. It took a little while, but I love hearing this update. They actually had this on Fox 17 this morning.
About a month ago, you may recall a story that we told you out of Murfreesboro. That is where the school system out there, their school board, got a visit from a man that calls himself the book ban preacher.
It's the book banning pastor.
Yeah, TM also. Don't forget the TM.
Put some respect on it. You know what I mean? But anyway.
Now, we wanted to tell you a little bit more about it. He wanted to talk about a book out there it's called It Feels Good to Be Yourself. That's the name of the book. It's a children's book about being transgender. In case you don't remember that speech, here's just a little bit of a taste.
So then they play a clip of the speech, which we just played for you. They play a heavily edited version. Again, this book is for 4 to 8-year-olds, okay? 4 to 8.
Now, the pastor's words caused a huge disruption there at the meeting. It actually forced it into a recess. Well, now a month later, some school board members are finally addressing the issue. One school board member is calling what the pastor did a big show.
No, I would actually call it heroic. It's not a big show. You know, you're upset. You're a little bit butthurt that you were called out, and the community reacted in a way that you didn't appreciate. It's a big show, though. It's all a big show.
So we had a speaker who brought this to our attention. We've made reference to that at our December board meeting. This person had advertised his visit to us for weeks before he came.
Yeah, well, he was putting you on notice. This is Amanda Moore of the Murfreesboro School Board speaking.
Never contacted the school, never contacted central office, and never contacted this board, even though he came and yelled at us about this dangerous book we had on the shelf.
That taxpayers are paying to have there, that tells 4-year-olds that they're transgender or non-binary, and that's okay.
Now, to be clear, that pastor does go around the country. He lives in North Carolina, but he goes around the country talking about books that he feels like needs to be banned. And he does so at school board meetings many, many times. This book, by the way, was called It Feels Good to Be Yourself. It was removed by the school board after a panel took a closer look at the book and deemed it to be inappropriate.
Weird. So when he called attention to the book, then you have to remove it. And you're upset that he called attention to it. It's a big show. Well, you know what? Why was the book there in the first place? Why? I love Pastor John. I think we could use 1,000 more of him. He's a friend of mine, and he does. He goes around to all sorts of different cities, and he calls out schools for the books that they have in their library, or he calls out just the absolute waste. Like he went to Baltimore City, and he's like, "How are we paying all this money per student, and these kids can't read?" He calls out the liberal indoctrination and the hypocrisy of these individuals on the school boards. He puts them on notice, and then change happens, and they're upset about that. They're upset that change was forced upon them. Deal with it. This is a huge win. We mentioned a moment ago, that common sense is being restored. We're slowly seeing that. 4-year-olds don't need to be learning about transgender issues. A book that's about transgender issues for kids 4 to 8. You know what? Listen, if you're a parent and you want to do that on your own time, that's your decision. I'm against it, but that's your decision. To have a book where any kid is going to find it and in the library at school, and parents may not know about this, parents may think that their kids aren't ready for these conversations, that's not okay. It's just not, especially when it's there on your dime as a taxpayer. Pastor John called it out. They removed the book. Thank you, Pastor John Amachukwu. I'm going to send him a thank you note today and give him an update on this because it's fantastic. We need more of this. If you see these books in your libraries, let me know. Let's call these people out. The only thing that they respond to is public ridicule. That's it. That's all they respond to. We got to make a stink and we have to make noise. That's the way change is made. Pastor John Amachukwu, by the way, is going to be coming to World Outreach Church to deliver a sermon on January 25th and 26th, I believe. And if you've never heard Pastor John speak, it's an excellent opportunity for you to see him live. He is fantastic. So shout out to Pastor John. Shout out to Common Sense. And thank you, Murfreesboro City School Board, for removing these indecent books. It's about time. They should have never been there in the first place. Should have never been there in the first place. Wild. We got a lot to cover and very, very limited time, but this is a story that I really wanted to get to. Did you hear about YouTube demanding re-education to silence wrongthink?
That's very Clockwork Orange of them.
Okay, so Dr. Drew, you understand Dr. Drew, who he is, right? Loveline, and you know he's done a bunch of stuff. So this weekend, he posted a tweet. This weekend, @YouTube creators accused me of spreading medical misinformation and took down 2 videos with a medical doctor and a lawyer. He said, I've been a board-certified physician for over 40 years, 2 times YouTube's existence. So let's take a closer look at the timestamps they say are harmful. And he outlines the timestamps. And it says medical misinformation. There are different types of medical misinformation and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's all this YouTube jargon. But it says that in order to get his YouTube channel back, he needs to undergo 90 days of policy training or he loses his entire YouTube channel. So just so you understand, YouTube is demanding re-education to silence wrongthink. And the crime of Dr. Drew was having licensed experts who dared challenge the narrative. The flagged content featured discussions on COVID risks and vaccines, which I think is a conversation a lot of Americans want to have. YouTube labeled it medical misinformation despite both of the speakers being board-certified professionals. This isn't moderation by any means. This is trying to control the narrative. And they're losing the narrative, by the way. Now, these kind of conversations will get you kicked off YouTube, yet a lot of people are having them. The LA Times, the owner of the LA Times, is now talking about COVID vaccines in children and what's popping up in young kids. And I wonder if this kind of medical misinformation would get us kicked off YouTube. You see, this is another expert, Dr. Patrick Shun-Xiong, owner of the LA Times. He's a renowned transplant surgeon, and he's raising alarms about the fallout from the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines, and he's linking them to the unprecedented deaths in cancers in children.
So this idea of the effectiveness and safety of the vaccines is real science. We need to talk about it. And guess what? Not only are we going to have 2 big crises about the recovery of California over the next decade, but we're going to have to address the rising incidence of cancer. For the first time in my career, I've seen an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old with colon cancer. The first time in my career, I've had a 13-year-old child in our clinic die of metastatic pancreatic cancer. We have to face this effectiveness and face reality. The good news is that we can do something about it. The good news now, there are effective therapies because we understand the science in such an immense way.
We got to look into it. We got to look into it. Now, causation, correlation, you know the thing. I'm not a doctor. But the fact that these conversations are limited on these platforms and restricted, and a guy like Dr. Drew can have a board-certified professional to talk about it, and he has to go through re-education to get his YouTube channel back, is insanity. And it doesn't lead to trust in the medical industry at all. You know, these worries and fears about the fallout and adverse events after the COVID vaccines is exactly why I decided not to vaccinate myself or my kids or my wife. You know, we said, no thanks. We'll wait and see what the long-term data looks like. And if this long-term data is playing out the way Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong explains, we're in for a crazy few years. I pray it's wrong. I pray it's wrong. There were a lot of parents that vaccinated their kids because they thought it was the right thing to do. And you know what? Maybe it was. But he's saying for the first time in his career, he's seeing an 8-year-old with pancreatic cancer, 9-year-old, 10-year-old with colon cancer, a 13-year-old dying of pancreatic cancer. He also throws his support behind Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he said Kennedy knows more about the science than most doctors. Yet it was those doctors that tried to shut RFK down. And when RFK gets his confirmation hearing, they're going to be trying to throw this kind of stuff in his face. Yet, give it 6 months and the conspiracies will become reality. I pray they're wrong, but can we at least have the conversation? Can we at least have the conversation? It's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Reports say Israel and Hamas have agreed to a hostage deal and ceasefire. Federal regulators moving to ban red dye number 3 in our food. And Governor Lee calls a special session to deal with school vouchers and 2 other issues. We'll tell you about it at noon on Super Token 99.7 WTN.
And, of course, the ceasefire deal has nothing to do with who's being inaugurated in 5 days.
You know what? I'll pay attention once the Mennonites and the Amish put down their weapons.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Chad Benson is in here. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. You know, he said, what do you say during the break? You know, Southern Baptists never blow anything up.
They're never doing anything crazy. You want people to pay attention? Blow up.
Yeah, that's
right?
it.
That's it, man. People pay attention real fast. Like that's a serious thing. You start blowing things up, people are going, I think I might take you serious.
Are you excited for Joe Biden's farewell address to the nation tonight?
I am pins and needles. Very excited. Just excited. So I just want to get this right. He wrote a letter, and then he's going to come on stage and read the letter?
Do we think he wrote the letter?
Well, no. None of these people ever write any of their own stuff. That's why you have writers for that. You may change some of it up, but...
Well, I used to believe that until Kamala Harris did the exact same speech at every campaign stop that she had during the run-up to 2024.
Write stuff, but she wasn't remember any of it, dude. That's the problem. You know, when you have a few pops, next thing you know, you're not, whoa, Chad, come on. You don't know that's true.
It probably is, though.
Yeah, I know. Man, I tell you what, I can't believe she didn't win, right? Like, shock to all of us.
We could have had unity and a utopia.
No utopia for us. Once we get those damn Amish to calm down.
You know those that meme with like the flying cars and like the actual like futuristic city? It's like if Kamala won, like immediately that would have happened.
Oh yeah. Oh, like the Jetsons.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I was promised as a kid we're gonna have all that stuff.
I saw a thing today that there's a Chinese company out there that's gonna by next year they're gonna have flying motorcycles.
Oh yeah, I've seen. Have
you seen
things.
that?
It's like Tron, but in the air.
And I saw it, and I thought to myself, like, oh, I would love this. And I was like, you know what? We would just have flying motorcycle accidents above 24.
That's my fear.
Instead
There's
of
a pothole still above 24 in the sky.
There
There's a pothole there.
There would still be traffic on 24. We could have flying motorcycles, and we would still.
No, the roads would still, like the sky will somehow have like a pebble or something.
Yeah.
They're just a.
People are going to hit birds.
Accidents.
It's going to be awful. I the thought of it sounds cool, like we're going to have all this, but then I meet people and I'm like, no, on the ground is where you belong.
I still want my hoverboard from Back to the Future, though.
That's cool.
My brother actually has it off like a replica one with Michael J. Fox's autograph on it. And I'm just like, God, this would be so cool if this actually floated.
They built one.
Like it was like the pink board and everything.
They built one. And
when are we going to go get it?
So I don't know. I forgot who built it. They came out with it. They built one to show everybody what it could do, but it was it's one of those spec things. It was like, okay, well, if we were to do these in mass, it's $3 million or whatever. Yeah. But it's pretty awesome.
Okay, I think the profit would exceed $3 million though.
Oh yeah, if you were to put that up,
that's $1 billion.
With the shoes,
idea.
you got to have the shoes.
You got dudes willing to pay $150,000 for a robot. I think that those same guys would pay $40,000 for a hoverboard.
Oh my
absolutely,
God, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and then in 5 years they'll be like $8 on the street. But the thing is, it's all about first mover advantage of being cool.
You'd have the same questions about the hoverboard though that you have with the robot.
Oh God, yeah. Well, you know what? I'm amazed, right? I live out over here off Broadway and everything. People just, people who have no right being on a scooter, go get on a scooter, right? Like Nancy's not been on any kind of bicycle in 20 years. She's drunk with her friends and she thinks this is a solid idea. And the next thing you know, Nancy's brain is Gary Busey on the street. And we're like, oh, that was a horrible wedding thing you went to.
Yeah.
You mean bachelorette party?
Yeah.
Is that what you're...
Whatever it is.
the woo girls.
Because we had one the other day, man. Some guy ate it big time in front of... Oh, yeah. He wasn't moving. They had the paramedics were there like 20 minutes in the street. And what was it? There's just one of those little scooters just next to him, just a little wheel spinning.
This took a turn.
It's spectacular.
So you're loving the scooters.
Oh, they're great. Because people are stupid. And you put them by the bars. You're like, you know what would be great? People getting drunk and riding these.
Yep.
Like, what is the insurance on that bad dog?
I don't know, man.
I mean,
I've
the
never
government
ridden
owns
one.
the city owns those scooters, I think, right?
I'm too nervous I'd get hit by a car.
Oh.
I'm like, now that I'm old and I have kids, I'm like, listen, like even the other day, I'm like at the playground with the kids, I'm swinging on a swing, I'm like, I should jump off, and I'm like, no, that'll be a torn ACL.
Old and you fall, you stay falled.
Yep.
How'd you get knee surgery, Chris? I was on the swing.
Yeah.
Thought I was still 20.
What do you got coming up on the
We're
show
going to
today?
talk about red dye number 3.
Let's go.
That's going to be awesome.
Can we get red dye 40 out of there too?
Maybe. We'll see. And then a little bit of this whole Israel-Hamas thing, see what that looks like. A bunch of other stuff. It's going to be fun.
All right, Chad Benson in next. It's Super Time.